You're looking for a desktop that just works, something you can set up, plug in your monitors and peripherals, and trust to run day in day out without constantly checking for driver updates or performance hiccups. You don't want a glossy spec sheet that looks impressive on paper but ends up being a headache when you actually need to run spreadsheets, video calls, and a few light design tools. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The biggest worry most buyers have with a business-class PC is whether the price really reflects the long-term reliability they need, or if they're just paying for a brand name. When I started digging into the ThinkCentre M70c, the first thing that stood out was the way Lenovo has packaged the internals. A 10th Gen Intel i3-10100 f 4.3 GHz gives you 4 cores that are more than enough for typical office workloads: email, web browsing, office apps, and even a few browser tabs with heavy web-based dashboards. The real convenience comes from the storage mix, a 2 TB SSD paired with a 1 TB HDD. In my own setup, the SSD boots Windows 10 Pro in under 10 seconds and launches the main productivity apps instantly, while the HDD serves as a quiet vault for archived documents, project files, and even a small media library. That split eliminates the usual compromise of either paying for a huge SSD or living with a sluggish hard drive. What makes the M70c feel practical for a small office is the port selection. 6 USB ports, including 2 USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 connectors, let you keep a keyboard, mouse, external webcam, and a USB-C docking station all powered and ready at the same time. The HDMI output is useful if you need a secondary display without reaching for an adapter, and the built-in DVD-RW is a small but handy feature for businesses that still rely on physical media for backups or software distribution. I've seen a lot of all-in-one boxes that skimp on ports to save space, only to force users into dongles later. Here, the ports are right on the back, so cable management stays tidy. Graphics are another real-world consideration. The AMD Radeon 520 with 2 GB of GDDR5 isn't a gaming card, but for the typical business user it's more than sufficient. I ran several PowerPoint decks with embedded video, a couple of 1080p YouTube streams during a team meeting, and even opened Photoshop to edit a logo. The Radeon 520 handled all of that without dropping frames or causing stutter. If you're a graphic designer who works with large PSD files or a video editor needing hardware acceleration, you'll notice the lack of CUDA cores or higher VRAM, but for day-to-day tasks it's a cost-effective solution. One of the subtle strengths of the ThinkCentre line is the chassis design. The M70c is a compact, almost cube-shaped tower that fits comfortably under a desk or on a small office shelf. Its small footprint means you can allocate more floor space to collaborative work areas without sacrificing performance. Because it's a business-grade model, Lenovo has also baked in a few security features like a TPM 2.0 chip and optional BIOS password protection that are useful for companies handling sensitive data. Those are things you rarely see on consumer desktops at this price point. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs. The i3-10100, while solid for most office tasks, starts to feel stretched when you throw a dozen heavy Chrome tabs, a virtual machine, and a large Excel workbook into the mix. In my testing, the CPU usage would climb to the high 70s%, and the system would get noticeably warm. It's not a failure, just a reminder that this isn't a workstation meant for intensive data analysis or large-scale simulations. The RAM configuration 48 GB DDR4 spread across 3 slots gives you plenty of headroom for multitasking now, but the board only supports up to 64 GB, so future upgrades are capped. If you anticipate needing more than that, you might outgrow the platform faster than expected. Another point of friction can be the power consumption. The unit draws about 120 watts at idle, which is higher than many ultra-low power mini PCs. In a small office with dozens of machines, that adds up on the electricity bill. It's not a deal-breaker for most small businesses, but if you're running a green-focused operation, you may want to compare this against a lower power alternative. Also, the DVD-RW drive, while convenient for some, is a moving part component that can eventually wear out. If you have no use for optical media, you could be paying for a feature you'll never touch. So, who should consider buying the ThinkCentre M70c? First, small to medium businesses that need a reliable, secure workstation for each employee without the premium price tag of a high-end workstation. It's also a good fit for remote workers who want a desktop that can handle multiple monitors, a stable network connection, and a decent amount of storage for backups. The inclusion of Windows 10 Pro adds business-centric features like BitLocker encryption and remote desktop, which are valuable for IT departments managing several endpoints. Who might want to skip it? If you're a gamer, a 3D artist, or anyone whose daily workflow relies on heavy rendering, you'll